What's happening, good people? Welcome to the channel. I'm Wes, aka Mr. Budget Watch, and today I'll be taking a closer look at my first ever Casio Edifice, more specifically the EFS S510D 1BV-UEF. Wow. This is a solar chronograph, which is actually my first on the channel, but not my first as a whole. But you know, that can be for a different video. So this was kindly provided to the channel by the watch shop, but you know guys, by now that does not change or impact my review at all. So if you've never heard of the watch shop, they are a massive online retailer based in the UK. They have a huge selection of watches including Casios, Seiko, Satina, Hamilton and so many more. They have fantastic customer services, fast shipping and year-round sales and discounts to get good prices just about all the time. For more information on the watch shop, check the link in the description. So being my first ever Edifice, I was quite excited as these are a little bit of a step up from the usual Casios I feature on the channel. And from what I've seen, these appear to be very solid offerings, but are they? Well, that's what I'm going to be finding out today. So kicking things off with the all-important sizes, and the diameter is a pretty large one for me at 44.8. This increases to 47.2 if you include the crown and pushers. The lug-to-lug is a rather long 51.2, but just don't let that put you off quite yet. You'll see more later on. The thickness is a mere 12mm on the dot, and the lug width is 22. Finally, the crown measures in at 5.8mm. The watch is constructed from stainless steel, though I can't find any sort of concrete proof that it's 316L. With it being Casio, I'm presuming it probably will be, but don't quote me on that. 100-meter water resistance is very respectable for a chronograph, and I think should be the average these days, in my opinion. Do you agree? The crystal is sapphire with a little bit of clear AR. It's actually quite a surprise from a Casio, to be fair. The case back is screwed down, which is always nice, while the crown is just a pull push, but honestly I can live with that as it's not a diver. Finally sized up for me, it weighs in at 136 grams. Starting with the fixed 60-minute bezel, and it is a silver toned aluminium insert. I think this is absolutely fine and it perfectly suits the watch and the style well. Around it you'll see numerals every 5 minutes and batons everywhere else. All nicely done. The minute track is printed onto a very dark grey chapter ring and again is cleanly done and very legible. So moving in, and we have some shallow applied indices that are a little bit of a mixed bag. Now it's not so much the quality that's the issue, it's actually their appearance. As you can see, there's a difference in sort of sizes of them and different shapes, and it just creates a little bit of a mishmash look. But honestly, with the text and with all the subdials, it's kind of understandable why they've had to do that. Speaking of, text, there is quite a bit. So next to the 3 o'clock date window, you can see Casio branding, the Edifice logo, water resistance, well, WR 100 meter, and solar powered. Honestly, it's a little bit cramped here, and I think they should have left a few of these off and put them on the case back instead, which would have just cleaned it up a little bit. That isn't all, as there's printed at the 6 o'clock which says sapphire. I don't really think that was needed, and I think it just adds to the clutter, and they definitely could have just again put that on the case back instead. Then finally there's some small text at the bottom that says Japan movement. So like I've mentioned, it definitely needs a declutter. To the dial, and this one is very cool though, if you can see past all the text that is, it has a triple sub dial layout that's not exactly traditional. The 12 o'clock is a 24-hour. The 9 is a 30-minute timer, and the bottom is a 60-second. But looking at the one at the 6 again, you can see the sub dial also has a power reserve indicator built in, but more on that later on. On the plus side, I love the shade of green they've used. It's sort of like a turquoisey blue. It's so nice. It has a circular pattern engraved into it with some high polished accents just for some pop, and it does look awesome in natural light. Not many dials really do sort of pop like this one does, so I'm very, very impressed here. The little sort of accent of red is a nice little touch too, and it sort of matches the tip of the second hand. So even though you wouldn't really think they're complementary colours, it works quite well. So as for the hands, they are loom filled and sort of blade sword shaped. They're not exactly Dauphine like you'd find on some other watches. They're definitely more sort of blade sword shaped, which is the best word I can think of to describe it. They're actually high polish and pretty well done. They seem to be quite clean. The second hand has that really bold red tip for legibility and a high polished counterbalance. The rest of the hands on the subdials are actually a smaller sword style, which are actually painted white to match the rest of the indices, and of course the hands as well. Finally, to the actual dial itself, and it's a dark grey sunburst. This isn't one of those sunbursts that sort of really shouts at you, and I really understand why they've done that. I think it actually is more subdued because it makes the rest of the subdials and accents pop, whereas if it was a really strong sunburst, you know, the accent colours and features would have probably got lost in that. So I think they've made the right choice here. To the sides of the case, and finally we have something with a little bit of interest. We have a sloped chamfered edge at the sides of the lugs and a strong groove that separates the bezel from the mid case. This isn't much, but at least it has something. The finish is high polished and the transition is very nice, as there's not any over brushing from the lugs onto the side of the case, so all nicely done. The opposing side is the same, apart from, of course, you have your dual pushes and crown, all of which are high polish. The crown is signed, which is always nice to see. Last up to the case back, and it's a very simple screw down that has a radial brush finish and stamp specification and the Edifice logo. Nothing fancy, but it's quite well done. The bracelet next, then, it's a bit of a mixed bag compared to the case. The finishing is nice, as we have brushed outers, centres with some tastefully done polished accents. I like. All done to a good standard. The clasp is a simple pressed affair with double pushers and partially polished and partially brushed, which you can see. It's nothing fancy, but it works well. The outer shell is again stamped with the Edifice name and logo. We also have 4 micro adjust, which is a very nice addition, and more should definitely have around this amount. The links are solid, though the end links are hollow, though the actual fitment at the end is pretty tight and well done, so no real complaints. Would be nicer if it was solid though, but you know, it is what it is. The only issue though, it is a bit of a noisy one. Now it's not Seiko noisy, but it is still so you know, keep that in mind. As for comfort, it actually really surprised me, given that it has a big lug to lug and diameter beyond what I normally wear. It actually does wear quite well. We have a nice profile and down-to lugs to thank for that, and of course the female end links too, you know, just further increase the wearability. I do get some overhang on my 6-inch wrist though it's not as bad, as the lug downturn does help sort of minimise that impact. It's only really at the sort of side profile look that you can actually see it. As for the actual comfort, it's brilliant. The watch is nicely balanced, the bracelet is very comfortable, it's got nice flex, it's got good articulation, and it's not too tight. Plus we have all those micro adjusts as well, so you can get a bang on fit. I mean, I can wear this watch for hours with no complaint at all, which is a surprise given the size of it. To the movement, and this is my first solar one from Casio. It's the 5529, and you know what, it's pretty impressive. The charge time ranges from between 6 minutes to 6 hours depending on where you've got it. In direct sunlight it'll charge the quickest, but it will actually charge off indoor lights as well. So if you're in a you know, room all day and you've just got a light charging it, it will actually still charge, but it'll obviously take a little bit longer. It also has that awesome battery indicator, which I'll demonstrate in a short while. The accuracy of this one is an average negative to plus 20 seconds per day, so it's nothing special, but it's just about bang on average. The life between charges is 5 months, so that means that you can put it in a drawer for 5 months, take it out, and it'll still be fine. It does, however, need a special battery, so that could pose an issue down the line, as I don't think they're going to be the easiest to get hold of. Also, there's no real longevity on the movement lifespan either that I could find, so that might need some further research. So as for the features, and they are pretty cool, number one is the battery life indicator. When you have the crown fully sort of pressed into the side of the case, you press and hold the bottom pusher for a few seconds, and the hand on the subdial at the 6 moves around and stops on the red accent at either the H, M or L, which is basically high, medium and low. And I think that's very handy, and it's really easy to use to see how much charge you've got left in your watch. The rest of it is basically like a traditional chronograph. The top pushers set it off the timer, one full elapse of that, and the 9 o'clock one springs into life denoting a minute has gone past. To stop it, you actually just simply press the bottom one, and then it will return back to its regular place. As for the crown, it's actually good. Even though it's quite small, it's got nice grip and it's very easy to use, and pretty much like any other traditional watch. One pull out for the date and two for the time. It really is simple. In action, it's very nice and smooth and works without issue. However, I did notice that my sample does have an issue with the 6 o'clock hand. So when stopped after use, it doesn't actually go back to the 60-minute marker and does need some realignment. This does happen from time to time, but it is a very easy fix. So though this is, you know, a bit of a small problem, if you have this issue and want to know how to fix it, check the link in my description, and that'll give you a pointer in the right direction. Finally, to the Loom, and I'm not going to waste your time here, it's not good. It has some, barely, and it's all but useless, to be fair. As a whole, I really do like this watch, and for the price point of £165 in the UK, I don't think that's too bad. Though if you buy it through the watch shop and use code SAVE25 in all caps, that comes down to 123, and I think that is a fantastic price. Yes, my sample isn't perfect and does have that small chronograph issue, but that is really the only fault I could find. And to be honest, that isn't enough for me to say that this is a bad watch, because it really isn't. I love the dial, it wears way better than expected for my slim wrist. The solar is solid and it is a looker too, especially when you get it outdoors into some natural light. So I can say for me that reduced price, it's a fantastic buy. Full retail, it's still pretty decent, but that actually does bring it in line with some Citizens. So that'll be a different video entirely. So what do you think of this Edifice? Is it any good? Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads. And of course, follow me on social media at Mr. Budget Watch. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.